Hey there, actors, filmmakers, people interested in the life of a unemployed actor. Today I am talking to Shane Martin. He moved to Vancouver, British Columbia to find some work in the film and television industry, and we sit down and he tells me a few stories about his experiences in moving over there. Note that I kind of usually do this like welcome to the unemployed actor intro if you've been listening for a while. In this one I don't do that. When we started talking, we just kind of went into conversation as the recorder was recording, and so I didn't actually do that intro. But other than that, it should sound pretty similar in regards to the format. Might be making some changes to the show coming up here, so if you've been listening and maybe you're like, it's okay, but not great, hopefully a few of the changes will be great. And definitely let me know what you think of the show. You can always message me through nobudgetfilmmakers.com or at nobudgetshow on the social medias. Let me know what you think of the show, some suggestions for improvement, and stay tuned. I'll be coming out with some format changes to the show here in the future. Until then, enjoy my discussion with Shane Martin. Today's episode of Diary of an Unemployed Actor is brought to you by me, Milo Dennison. What? You can't be sponsoring your own podcast? Why, yes, I can sponsor my own podcast. Did you know before being an unemployed actor and podcast host, I spent 16 years working in technology for some of the largest tech companies in the world? It's true, I did. Before that, I had jobs in customer service, I worked construction, I worked retail. I basically kind of done it all. And I took some of that information and I wrote it down into a book called How to Manage Your Manager. All the credit, half the work. It's a slightly entertaining and slightly informative advice guide on how to work more effectively with your manager. We all have somebody we report to. Well, most of us do anyways. And sometimes it can be, well, let's say, difficult to work for that person. Now, just take this book, give it a read, and pretty soon you will be that manager's #1 rock star. So once again, it's called How to Manage Your Manager. All the credit, half the work. It's written by me. Not to brag, but it's brilliant. Find out where you can get it by going to my website, milodennison.com/books. That's milodennison.com/books to find out where you can get your copy. And now on to the show.
Are you on the Spotlight?
Yep, I'm on Spotlight, Star Now, and Backstage are the three that I'm on.
Yeah, the Backstage one isn't actually too bad. I've just been tuning in this week because they had a lot of free workshops and talks. But it's a good resource to have,
Yeah, that one's nice. Spotlight's useless. The only reason why you have to have it here is because if you want to get an agent in London,
Yeah.
they want you to be on Spotlight. Other than that, as far as I'm concerned, the website in general, it does absolutely nothing for you.
Yeah, when I was on Spotlight a few years ago, like I just had 2 auditions in the space of a year, and they were both in London, And like I ended up flying over from Ireland. But what I did use it for was the camera clinics in the Bow Street. They just had some workshops in there, so that's pretty much what I got out of it.
Oh, well, maybe I can get some of that kind of stuff when things clear up. There'll be some, good workshops I can get through it or something.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because there's so many of these casting websites or platforms, as they call them as well. And now a lot of them are like, you got to pay for them and the full membership and the fees, and then you have like a basic profile as well where you might see things. But there's so many out there, and for me, I think they're based on like where you are in the world. Like if you're in England, you're London, you're like on the Spotlight. But in Canada, there was like 3 I was on. There was like Casting Workbook, then there was Casting Networks is another one, and Actors Access, which is actually like they call it breakdown services in the States, and then Actors Access in Canada, but it's pretty much the same thing.
Here's an interesting thing I've been trying. So I've been actually tracking, or at least I was up until when I could actually go to auditions, is I've been tracking like which sites I'm on and how many auditions and like actual jobs I get through the site. And so that way, like when the membership's up, I can be like, hey, I didn't actually get any jobs from being a member of this site, so I won't renew my, subscription membership
Or like a
versus the,
ratio thing.
yeah, absolutely. So I've kind of started doing that. So backstage, I've gotten a couple.
The whole ratio thing is a good way to like keep your determination going and your motivation, especially for auditions. Because my thing for a while was like, go to as many auditions as possible and get as many callbacks as possible. But that's great, like I was like, oh, I might go to like 100 auditions in a year, but that's quite. Now it depends where you are, of course, but it can be ambitious. But realistically, you might get maybe 15 or 20 auditions in the space of a year. So, well, in Ireland anyway. When I was in Vancouver, like, yeah, there's a wider industry there, and yes, I have been to more auditions in a shorter space of time than I would here.
Yeah, it's a very different market over, and like Vancouver, I think they shoot a lot more TV series over there too.
Yeah, like it's a really good place if you want to work in production or like crew or like that kind of thing. If you want to become a cameraman or film production, because there's so much work. Don't get me wrong, there's acting work there as well, but I think over the 2 years, I think my time was kind of done there. Like if it wasn't going to happen, I might as well, decipher my time here, and then maybe London or UK after things blow over. Or I'm actually on a European website called etalented.eu as well. I don't know if you know that one.
I don't know that one, huh?
Yeah, they're based out of Germany. Yeah, check it out. And they have connections in the States as well on that. And what's really good about that is they actually give you a full list of all like casting directors and in each country all over Europe. And then you can actually message them individually on it, like yourself if you want it.
That's cool.
So before, like, yeah, I was in Canada for almost 2 years, and one of the reasons why I moved over there was for my career, for the TV and films and stuff. So I was kind of like weighing up which place to go, right? Which city. So I ended up in Vancouver.
So that's near my old neighborhood. I'm from Seattle.
Yeah, I've been to Seattle. Yeah, it's a lovely spot actually. Yeah, I like it there. Yeah, the gum wall where you gotta spit your bubble gum out and stick it on the wall.
Oh yeah, that's the right outside the they do improv there.
Yeah, I noticed that actually. Yeah,
Yeah, so I did a few a few of their workshops. So they do like a 100 and 200 level training classes and stuff. And so I did
get
a
out of
couple of
here.
years of their improv training, and they're really talented improv people there.
Yeah, I always kind of wanted to get into like comedy or improv group, and there was plenty of that in Vancouver. Yeah, during my time there, I managed to like I went through two agents, and the latter agent that I had was actually pretty good. Like he was kind of well connected in LA, and he was actually an actor himself. I mean, they were family like a Russian family called West Coast Talent Management.
Did you get much work through the agency? Curious about some agents seem really good about finding you work, and other agents kind of seem like, look, I'll represent you, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time, finding work for you. So if you need an agent, tell them you have one.
Like to be honest, I only had him for about like 5 or 6 months just before I left. So that was kind of a pity because I had to cut him short a bit, because I ended up coming home. But during that time, like I didn't actually book anything with him, but like I just got a couple of three different callbacks and then commercial auditions. There was one or two auditions that I went was pretty much like super big for me. Like even though they were just principal parts in the TV shows, but the casting directors themselves were pretty big. Like I mean, one casting director, I actually can't recall her name, but she casted for that show Fargo.
Oh yeah.
So that was kind of a big one for me, and I just remember going into her office and like seeing all these movies up on the wall, the billboards, and then and then a big sign of the Fargo series, which I kind of a fan of.
What was that audition like? Was it kind of a walk-in, multiple people, camera staring at you, do the scene, or did they have you read off of people? What was that experience like?
I've been kind of around the block at this point, like in terms of student movies in Ireland, then like one or two TV shows, auditions here in Dublin, and then a hell of a lot of commercial auditions, which are pretty much like a lottery draw almost. But they kind of have like you know sort of a different approach over there. They're big on the callbacks, because they might you might even have like two or three callbacks as well. It could be like four or five different rounds, but like that's for like kind of more lead roles and supporting characters. But for like guest or principal, they just have like the one callback.
Did you get any work through it?
Unfortunately, not no, but I did manage to get like a couple of short movies while I was over there under my belt, and then one Indian Bollywood movie that went global.
Oh, really? Tell me about that.
They actually had some screenings in Dublin and the UK, actually, believe it or not. It was called Ishq My Religion, and I just had like a couple of lines where I was like a construction worker, with like a little stop sign saying like, you can't pass here, to the main actors, but it was all kind of like dubbed in Punjabi, which was, interesting.
Were there musical numbers in it? Like how a lot of Bollywood films have song and dance numbers.
Yeah, there was a bit. I actually haven't seen it back.
Oh,
See, in the world of acting, like it's bizarre because like you could be going down one path, like in a different country, like Canada, and then like some work or some movie that you did like a couple of years ago, uh, they contact you about a screening. When I was over there in Canada, like recently, they had a screening here in Dublin of like a Nigerian Irish movie I did a few years ago called Osato, and that was about like kind of human trafficking and like crime based from Africa into Ireland and stuff. So that was kind of interesting, and they had like a big screening event with the Department of Justice and stuff. But it was a good project to do.
were you being trafficked in that film?
No, I played a sleazy accountant guy, so yeah, it was a bit of fun. It was kind of like a interesting role.
When you were in Canada, did they want you to do an Irish accent for stuff or more of an, Canadian American type of an accent?
What's really interesting about Vancouver actors is, and the whole industry there is, like 90% of it is all US productions that come up from the States and LA and places. So they shoot a lot of those CW superhero TV shows, and they require the American accent. So even Canadians have to practice and work on their own accents, to try and get the standard American, or like, and even the agent said it to me, and he was kind of like a Russian European descent himself, but he was saying like, oh, show us that American side of you, but also show your Irishness where you're from.
Yeah, it's interesting because your accent's not a very thick Irish accent.
I probably lost a bit of it over there, to
I
be
think you
honest.
did actually from last time I talked to you. Yeah. But it's interesting. I read an article about an Irish actor who moved to the US. This was many, many years ago. And he would play roles as an Irish character, but they wanted him to do like a Hollywood Irish accent versus his proper Irish accent. So that really kind of like, oh,
Right.
today type accent.
Yeah, yeah. Like leprechaun.
Yeah, that was it. And he would
Yeah,
complain about
yeah.
it. He's like, people don't actually talk like that in Ireland.
Well, believe it or not, there is quite a large Irish community in Canada. Now, a lot of the Irish Canadians, they're based in like kind of Nova Scotia on the eastern side of Canada, so they'd have a very distinctive, unique accent themselves. But I've met a few people who kind of like mistaken me from being from there, that area.
Okay. How long were you over there for?
Yeah, almost 2 years actually. Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
so I left in 2018.
And then why did you was it just because your visa was up that you decided to come back, or was it you just weren't getting the work that you thought you were going to get and maybe you'd have, better luck in Ireland, or was it you just missed your family? And what's that?
Well, I guess it was kind of a combination of all those reasons. But one of the main reasons was like, yeah, like I've been doing auditions and things, and it's really difficult to get like, like a major part in a show there, or like a lead or supporting role. Now, if you were in LA or in the States, you'd have a much better chance or opportunity, because that's where all the productions, that's where they're born, like the writing and everything in the studios.
Yeah, I imagine they probably even potentially, especially for like a lot of your lead characters, they cast them in LA and then they like fly them up to Vancouver to actually shoot the series.
It kind of took me a little while to just get my head around the unique industry it has there, Yeah, basically the primary characters they cast in LA, and then the secondary characters they'd have open wider into Vancouver. But like for me, or like someone with relatively no professional experience, that'd be amazing even to just get like a walk-on part or something, like I mean, I'm grateful for the auditions that I even just went to.
Absolutely.
Those were an experience in themselves. And
Well, that's the thing. And even getting into the room and having that experience of an audition, it like prepares you for the next time that it's going to happen. And they're all
yeah,
just a little bit different. So you kind of, you're still nervous going in for each audition, but you know what's going to happen versus if you just kind of walked in off the street for the first time.
yeah, and then so I'll tell you about the now the bunch of commercials were a funny one, and then like I remember one audition I went into, there was this like it was a car commercial. They were looking for various different kind of guys, so they were looking for like a biker dude as one character, and then like kind of a thug. It was like the biker dude's kind of henchman mate, and then there's like a boss or something as well. But walking in the studio, there was like a really like kind of small enough studio space, and all you see is like 40 or 50 guys, big guys, small guys, tall guys, you name it. And we're all like sitting in this tiny little room, and waiting. And then they call like each of us in groups, so like five or six each, And it was like a lineup, and then they do like a slate of each actor doing the two parts. So like I was going for the biker and thug role, So that was kind of interesting. But like they started on kind of like they slated on the very right, and I was kind of like the last guy on the left kind of thing. So each person like got their turn, and then I was kind of like the last one. If you go to so many different auditions, you kind of notice little quirky things like if you're the first guy up, do you have the advantage, or if you're the last guy, maybe they'll remember you, kind of thing. Yeah, so I just kind of like improvised the last line and stuff in it because he was on the phone, but he was supposed to be like he's kind of like dissing the boss as well. So I kind of like said something like jackass at the end. But they like everybody laughed, like the whole room just like exploded in laughter, like. But I didn't get the part in the end, but it was enjoyable nonetheless.
I think a lot of people don't realize it's so much about the look too. Like, do you look like the character?
Yeah, especially for commercials.
Yeah, definitely for commercials. I mean, they want those people that look like family members and, they don't want people to look like actors. They want people to look like real people, quote unquote.
Before I was kind of like, playing the kind of like, young dude, like maybe the college teen or like the soldier or the kind of like young cop kind of guy. But now I'm kind of like going for roles where it's like, oh, maybe you can play the teacher or like a doctor kind of thing. So that's kind of interesting. Like, even like just to trying to like categorize myself, to be more realistic of which roles I can actually go for and get. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's an important skill
Yeah,
that
yeah,
an actor needs is to actually know what they need to kind of go for, like are you this type of a
yeah.
character, this type or age range and stuff. We're not like we don't have so much range we can do anything and everything. So we need to know what.
I think that's a particular skill that you only develop through your own experience for your own career. It's not like something. Now some people are better than it than others. It's not like something that like you get straight away. It'll probably take you at least a couple of years of auditioning and different things to say like, oh, if I have this script, like I know I'm not going to get the lead young Tommy role, because young Tommy is like 20 to 21 at the most, and he's like clean cut and slim. And and
Yep.
if I'm like a little bit older and like I'm gonna be honest, like a little bit more weight on me, like like fitness and that kind of thing has a lot to play actually. Like you'd be surprised, like stuff like your height and like your build comes into play a lot. Like
Yeah. Well, that's the problem I have because I'm not a very tall guy. So, I can't audition for those like tall, leading, muscular type roles kind of thing. Have to go for the, I don't know, other stuff.
in the 80s, or like one of my favorite actors growing up was Tom Cruise, like as funny as that may be, but like I always kind of admired his tenacity and his will, and like the fact that he does his own stunts in like almost every movie is awesome.
And to play a leading role, like he's the same height as I am.
So he's like what, just 5'2" or five
No,
foot?
he's five, yeah, 5'7", thank you.
5'7". All right, okay. But yeah, I saw him in the flesh in London, actually, believe it or not. I won this contest about 10 years ago, and I went to see his premiere of Night and Day with Cameron Diaz, and I brought my sister along. And it was crazy because I got to walk the red carpet and everything.
Did you run into any celebrities while you were in Vancouver?
Not so much, no. I mean, like there was kind of like local Canadian celebrities and stuff. But I did do like a movie from, I forget his name, but he starred in The Office as kind of like a minor role,
Oh, okay.
one of the manager, Baldy dude. But he's been in various like hangover movies and different kind of comedy movies like that.
When I lived in Seattle, we went up to Vancouver for just a weekend to, party like we used to do. And went out to breakfast one morning, and Martin Sheen was up there. And
Really?
yeah, I don't know what he was shooting or anything, but it was kind of cool because he's just sitting at the corner table in the cafe and he had a script. He was reading a script and eating his breakfast. And I didn't go
No
up to
way.
him. And it was kind of cool that nobody went up to him. They actually just let him do his thing versus being obnoxious and asking him for signatures and stuff like that.
They call it North Hollywood there, but it's not like LA at all.
No, I wouldn't think so either. So, what are you working on next?
I did do a short movie here in Ireland called The Priest back in 2015. And with a director, an American director actually. She's from like kind of New Orleans, I think, or somewhere. But she's actually living in Austria at the moment, and they're on like super lockdown over there. So ironically, she came up with a storyline of like psychological horror thriller about a virus, and like before, which is bizarre. But like over the recent, pandemic of the coronavirus, like we all know, she's kind of like going towards the more like leaning the storyline a little bit towards what's happening around us now. In a feature movie called Decomposition. Now they're actually shooting it in Austria, but I have like the part of like a little kind of geeky IT quirky guy who like solves like part of the mystery because like the storyline is actually based on a woman who, again, like teenage girls and stuff are being trafficked in Austria, but they seem to like get this virus, and they're like trying to like discover how it's spreading and everything.
Are you going to fly down there, like when the travel bans have been lifted, and shoot it there?
No, they're shooting my scene virally, like as a Skype call or something.
Oh, cool.
But the geeky, quirky IT guy, his name is Terry. He's actually Canadian because like they thought she thought of my character of me living in Canada at the time. So I'm gonna do a little Canadian accent for it. Something I've kind of came across recently, also in Vancouver. I just did a couple of workshops on voiceover and the whole notion of voice work, radio, that kind of area. So yeah, but it's great to have the technology to be able to like still be creative even though we're self isolating right now. And I mean it does suck, but like at least we can keep busy.
Where can people find you if they want to track you down? Where's your social media profiles?
Well, I'm on various platforms. Like I have a Facebook page, just Shane Martin Facebook. I have the Twitter. It's called Act Shane Martin. Then I'm on IMDb as Shane Martin 8. So Roman numerals 8. And then I'm on Casting Workbook, Casting Networks, and like I said, I mentioned etalented.eu / Shane Martin. I think it is on. There's a bunch of other ones as well, but like to be honest, I'm gonna update all these things and put stuff like I'm living in Ireland now as opposed to Canada.
Yeah, that's an
But you
important
never
one.
know. Like I mean, some of them they actually have like like secondary accommodation, so that's a good one in a way because like if you want to like if you want to work internationally or if you're like you know from Ireland to London, for example, it's a good way to keep in the loop of casting directors and agents.
Yeah, I try to when it's funny because when I'm trying to get work and stuff, I try to tell people that too. I'm like, I can legally work in the US, I can legally work in Ireland, and I can legally work
Exactly.
in the UK. So
Yeah.
they don't have to worry about work sponsorship or permits or anything like that in any of the countries.
Yeah. So like actually, I just got a recent message from a director in LA actually, and he actually found me on the eTalented because the eTalented is actually like connected through the Canada and US market as well. So um, he's shooting for a movie in LA, but also in Italy. So it's like a worldwide, or it's an international project. But that kind of thing is like, it's great to be on like so many different platforms because then you have more of an opportunity to be employed. So I think the biggest thing is you kind of have to think of, A, where you are, regional, B, be practical, what kind of roles are you able to go for? Are you able to do horse riding? Can you sing? Which accents can you do? And you can't be like the Joey Tribbiani and Friends. Like you have to be honest with these things as possible because like they're gonna catch you out at some point. One of the auditions I went for the TV show was actually a dancing part, so it was kind of like a ballroom horror type scene, um, which was a pain in the ass because I was actually like I was what they call on hold for the part, so it was just between me and two other actors, but unfortunately I didn't get it in the end. But there you go. Um, yeah, just keep up to date like as much as possible. Train. Do little things during the day, like if you want to like pick a new thing, if you want to take up like a Norwegian accent or something. I know like for a fact that the Vikings Valhalla show is coming here to Netflix, so they're going to be casting for that soon. So I'm going to personally work on like kind of a medieval Game of Thronesy type scene. Listen, it was really nice talking to you, and I hope you're pretty safe over there in London and surviving the apocalypse.
Diary of an Unemployed Actor with me, Milo Dennison, is a no-budget production. If you enjoyed the show, which I'm assuming you did since you are still listening, please take 90 seconds and let me know by leaving a rating on Apple Podcast. And you've probably already done this, but if not, don't forget to subscribe for more at Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever it is you get your podcasts. And be sure to tell a friend. Thank you.